Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Policy Lab. So, as team leader of the Rural Pact Support Office, I'm delighted to welcome you to our Policy Lab on rural development, rural proofing, looking at policies through the rural lens. This is an important and strategic topic, and we are delighted that many of you are interested in this topic. So, I propose to start without waiting the introductory session and hand over to Milouchev, Director at the Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development of the European Commission. So, Mario, you have the floor. And I will ask my colleague to share the presentation.
Thank you.
Actually, it's Alexia sharing the presentation.
It's Alexia. Okay.
Or is it?
Thank you, Pascal. Yeah, until it is shared, I can start. Welcome to everybody to this policy lab on rural proofing. Well, what I can say is that this is probably the most important and the most challenging task we must complete to improve future prospects for rural communities. And we have to do it collectively. Today, it is about rural proofing at national and regional levels. Be it at governmental administration or in the legislative bodies. Yet, let me take a few minutes to recall what we are doing at the European Commission level. At EC level, European Commission level, this week can go, yeah, okay, thank you. We have introduced the concept first in 2017 in the communication on the future of food and farming, following demands from the Cork 2 conference. We more formally committed to implement it in 2021 after the COVID crisis through the communication of the better regulation and the communication on the long-term vision for EU's rural areas. You can see on the slide quotes from these two documents that explain a bit our understanding on the rural proofing at Commission level. For us, the purpose of rural proofing is to ensure that needs and specificities of different EU policies and territories are better taken into account, including, in the territories, the rural areas, to facilitate a more symmetric recovery and cohesion, and that we make policies that are fit for purpose for those who live and work in rural areas. And in practice, the rural proofing considers for policies in the making the actual and potential positive or negative direct and indirect impacts and implications on rural jobs, development prospects, social well-being, equal opportunities for all, and the environmental quality of rural areas and communities. So you see that our approach to rural proofing is mainly ex ante, applied to new legislation. For the ex post, assessing the impact of policies that are in place, we talk rather about evaluation. However, there are national rural proofing approaches that include evaluation, something that if you decide, you can debate today. So, to continue with the slides, at the European Commission level, we implement rural proofing in several practical steps. Firstly, we screen the Commission work program that includes all initiatives to be adopted the following year for initiatives that may have disproportionate effect on rural areas. When we find some, SecGen flags them to the respective services. This is the blue box that you see on the left. All Commission services developing new legislative initiatives requiring impact assessments, such as new law, in yellow on the slide, legislative actions, have to implement the better regulation guidelines. These require that they identify all potential impacts, including territorial impacts, and that they consult a variety of relevant stakeholders. To help them assess whether their initiative is likely to have territorial impacts, they can use a quick 15 minutes territorial impact assessment necessity check, as we call it. If this necessity check returns a positive result, then they have to conduct a territorial impact assessment, including the quantitative or qualitative analysis and identification of adapted policy options. All the tools and methodologies of these various steps are available publicly, and you can find all relevant links in the dedicated webpage on the Rural Vision website. For initiatives that do not require impact assessment because they do not mobilize new funding or introduce new requirement, this is in green on the bottom or in gray, depending on your screen, like communications, strategies, or action plans, for example, we apply softer mechanisms through which we encourage the services to consider rural implications. So you see that all the provisions are in place in the Commission, and this is already something. Probably, and that's important, we should reflect with the European Parliament and the Council what can be done at their level as they are co-legislators, because the rural proofing is not only at Commission level. The next slide you will see in terms of results, as we reported in March 2024, there are some positive developments, but also a room for improvement. For legislative initiatives requiring impact assessment, the Commission undertook territorial impact assessment in 2022, and in 2023 another one. Territorial impacts were explored for two initiatives. This is the Waste Framework Directives and the Framework for Income Taxation, concluding that to the likely absence of territorial impacts. On softer form of rural proofing, we have managed to obtain a better description of rural specificities in many texts, and we keep doing so on a daily basis. However, the challenge is to obtain the formulation of adapted policy solutions. What we have learned piloting rural proofing for 3 years, we have learned that we need to raise awareness, to improve data availability, to better resource the process and improve coordination. On data, we have progressed a lot with more and better statistics, the launch of EU Rural Observatory, and 15 million euros invested in research project to improve rural data. But to really move towards policies that are more sensitive to territorial specificities, we still have work to do to gradually improve the use of this information, the collective understanding of rural areas in different policy domains, and the recognition of how much there is to win in designing better policies for rural areas. Of course, this takes time and efforts. You see also that that in March 2024, the Commission committed to keep using the rural proofing mechanism for its own regulatory process. And the commitment at the end of the slide, you see, has been renewed in the Vision of Agriculture and Food adopted by the Commission on 19 February this year, which says that rural proofing will be further operationalized and sufficiently resourced in the Commission. And we are currently working on this. Well, today we are concentrating on the national and regional levels in this seminar that we are all here. Back in 2021, the Rural Vision communication already made the case that rural proofing needed to happen at all levels of governance, and a lot of member states had started this, of course, even before. We have been active in keeping the dialogue with member states on this, by building on the framework developed by the European Network for Rural Development. There was a thematic group on rural proofing at national, regional, and local levels, and Urszula will present today. And also, the second thing is on the Council conclusions, which called on strengthened rural proofing at all levels, and make wide the use of territorial impact assessment in legislative proposals to address territorial impact where relevant. We are also interacting with international organizations such as the OECD and the World Health Organization on rural proofing, and I'm very grateful for their presence today. And we are also grateful, of course, to the Polish presidency of the EU Council for making this subject a priority, discussing this aspect with member states. You will hear about their conclusions in a minute. And the need for more territorial impact assessments was also on the table of the Ministers for Spatial Planning meeting in Poland last 20th of May. So you see that this is a hot topic for discussion today. Everybody agrees rural proofing is very important. All those who try it in practice know it is not easy. But we have also success stories, and they will be shared with us today. Governments fear administrative burden. No matter the governance level, policies are elaborated by civil servants who are challenged to carry out analytical and consultation works, sometimes with limited skills, sometimes with limited time and resources, sometimes tight political instructions and budgetary constraints. However, this exercise is crucial for rural areas, and existing obstacles should not lead us to give it up. Let's rather question today, how can we make it impactful while being simpler, easier, more appealing, accessible, and more resource efficient? And how can we make this a comprehensive process that engages with all those bodies and institutions who decide on the final legislation, including maybe the parliaments? Well, I mean local, regional, or national, or the European Parliament. Because policies and legislation are always the result of a negotiation between legislators. So with this, I wish you a fruitful discussion today, and that you bring home some ideas how you can do this in your respective countries and regions. And thank you for the attention.
Many thanks, Mario, for your introduction. I think that you gave us, the sense of the rural proofing, and that we will, I would say, have a very interesting meeting today. So many thanks. So I will, Urszula, later in the morning, will probably ask the panelists also to come back on your presentation. So I will not open the floor now with the participants. So thank you very much, Mario. And I will give the floor now to Paweł Szabelak from the Polish representation to the European Union. So Paweł, you have the floor.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I am honored to present you how Polish presidency approached the subject, which is included in our priorities. What was and is, and it will be included in our priorities. Could you change this like this? Yes. As I said, Polish presidency, it is quoted as a future terms, but it is being realized during our presidency that we wanted to discuss the subject of rural proofing as an important tool to accommodate that the policies will make their input into the rural areas and rural society, and also to promote this rural proofing mechanism among other policies. And this is what we did during our presidency, as you will see in the other slides. Please continue. There were discussions held not only on the Special Committee for Agriculture, but it was also discussed on the forum of Agri-Fish Council. On the 3rd of February, on the 24th of February, and also in May today of this year, the discussions were held in the SCA forum. And the further, if we can continue, the discussion was moved the subject of rural proofing, that it is very worth to be applying to all the EU policies beyond 2027 to ensure their contribution to sustainable development and their coherence and complementarity with common agricultural policy instruments. We tried, all the member states underlined that there should be a more cooperation between different DGs in the Commission in terms of programming and funding beyond 2027 in terms of rural areas, and to more involve, including cohesion policy, the need to better coordinate the rural development needs in these policies. Please continue. As already Mario said, and it is going in parallel, and we were underlining it too, as well as the member states, that tools for the and the better statistical data are needed to develop the better policies towards rural areas. And the fact of launching the rural observatories across EU should be further followed. And it was also underlined that not only the ex-ante assessment of rural policies to rural areas should be taken into account, but also the ex-post evaluations should be taken into account, because sometimes there is this time delay in terms of ex-post analysis in order to implement them in the next programming period. So those are the key recommendations which were worked on during the discussions. Oh, my presentation vanished. Please change the slide.
It's again there, Paweł.
Okay. Please, if you could change the slide again for the next one. Next slide, please.
Can we change this?
Oh.
Sophie, can we change the slides?
Yeah. Then the rural proofing should be the voluntary, of course, the mechanism for on the country level, as it is. There are differences between rural areas in all the member states, as well as the needs are different there. And there should be more strengthened dialogue with stakeholders in EU policies, as we can observe it also now, in order to get a better feedback and to have for rural communities have their voice in the policy formulations. Please, the next slide. So, as I mentioned, there is some, let's say, time delay in these slides, but this is how the discussion was led. It was led on the AGRI-Fish Council on 21st of February, and then it was, let's say, delegated to the Special Committee on Agriculture. So what we did were we didn't do conclusions on this. It is not council conclusions on the rural proofing mechanism, but there are recommendations, the summary of the discussion, because from technical reasons it would be not possible to finalize the conclusion, as well as most of the acts were not yet ready. For example, the vision for agriculture was published on February, so this is how it is. And the next slide, please. So those are the main the discussion, the summary of the discussion of the member states it's still to be it's similar to the recommendations which I presented before. So maintaining the current structure of the CAP, ensuring that it is properly funded, because it's also touching the rural areas. They need to improve the generational renewal, strengthening complementarity between and synergies between the policies supporting rural development. And rural proofing should be an instrument to support the complementarity of rural development policies. Then the leader should be widely implemented in the local development, and there should be adequate infrastructure for digitalization and in agriculture. There should be one slide more. Yeah. Next slide, please. And there was also the follow-up. One of this of the central conferences made by Polish presidency was the Rural European Congress on Renewal and Rural Development, which was held in Poznań, where there was a first Polish Rural Parliament sitting, and there was also a discussion on the future of agriculture and rural areas. And there were plenty of many participants during these 3 days of discussions. Over 100 experts taking part in the panels, not only on rural areas but also on agriculture, and about 4,500 participants. It can be seen, and there are movies and roles made on it on YouTube, and you can find it on the webpage. Some links on the webpage of Ministry of Agriculture on Poland. There is an English version of this webpage too, so there shouldn't be any problem. So already, as Mario said, some efforts from the Commission are going in parallel, but we still want that to further underline the importance of rural proofing, widening to all, especially all the policies, as we observe that the rural, the agriculture, the strategic plans are, let's say, have less percentage of actions driven to the rural areas. They are mostly first pillar interventions. If it will involve in that matter, we need other instruments to help rural areas to develop and maintain their vibrant livelihood for society, for people who live there, because without that, agriculture will not have the possibility to function correctly. This is all for now. From my part, I'm ready to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Many thanks, Paweł. We are happy to listen to, I would say, the importance of the rural proofing under the Polish presidency, which is very important, as you have both said with Mario, that it's a very strategic topic. And I think that with your both presentations, we have the big picture of this topic. So many thanks. Also, many thanks for your time. We understand that in this period you are quite busy. So many thanks for coming to our event. For the participants, if you have any questions, so put them in the chat. My colleague Urszula will come back on those questions if, in case you have questions on the 2 presentations we have just heard about. So now I'm giving the floor to Urszula, who will present the way the day will be organized. So Urszula, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Pascal. And I'm going to share my screen. I hope you can see it now, and it will be very soon in presenters mode. In the full screen mode. Is that okay?
Yes, Urszula.
Okay, so just first to give you an overview, we had, let's say, record high number of registrations, almost 300, and well, on the basis of the ones that have confirmed attendance, not all of them are yet present with us. We have the majority of public authorities and NGOs, but also quite a wide range of other types, and we have all the member states represented and quite a few non-EU countries. So this is a wide range of interests that will take part in the discussion and will present or hopefully will share their experiences and their views. And we have asked you in the registration form how you judge that rural proofing is advancing in your countries, and there's a very small proportion of you that think rural proofing is in place and functioning. There are quite a few where the concrete activities are underway, so some progress is being made. But the probably biggest group is still the ones where there's interest but not progress. So that also indicates that we have still a long way to go. The interesting thing is, of course, that the responses vary between people, even from the same country and region, and even from the same institution. I have to say, I'm not going to mention which country, but there are 3 people from the same ministry, and each of them gives a different answer about where rural proofing is in their member state. So that shows that we still need to not only work on the topic a little bit, but also to make people more aware about what is being done in different member states. So that event hopefully is going to help with that. Just to say, the rationale is that you see that the long-term vision that Mario mentioned has a rural action plan at the EU level, where, of course, we as a Rural Pact are part, but you have to see that rural proofing is also part of that action plan, and it is an important aspect where we have to move forward. That's where the event comes from. And we are building on the ENRD thematic group on rural proofing, and all the material that I'm showing in this presentation will be available on our website. Also in the PPT, there are links. So the framework that was developed 3 years ago makes 5 actions, highlights the 5 actions that need to be taken at member state level or at any level where you want to implement rural proofing. Clear statement of strong political will, shared vision of rural areas, and the role of rural proofing to contribute to that vision, coordinated roles and responsibilities, template and guidance, and then monitoring and evaluation, of course, at the end. All that is available, but we want to build on that. We want to go a step further. And to help us, we also have quite a lot of other useful material. There is the Committee of the Regions study on rural proofing. There is the OECD work, which I'm sure Betty-Ann will refer to, especially in the context of health, but also in other areas. Very recently, the Finnish Managing Authority has published a translation of their rural proofing guidelines. And also the Irish Managing Authority has produced a whole set of useful materials, guide and report and so on rural proofing. So all that is there to help other member states to become inspired. What we are going to do today is just maybe briefly help you, signpost you to some of this material and help you exchange on the next steps that need to be taken. So what we're going to go through, we'll have keynote presentation from Betty-Ann Rice from OECD. We will have a panel to discuss experiences from member states. Then we go to breakout rooms where we have structured the discussion along 7 questions. 4 questions about the strategic approach, how you design strategically the rural proofing in your member state or in your region, looking at what needs to come out, what is expected as a result, what should be done in priority, when to do it, and which governance structures are needed. Then after lunch, we will show you a little bit of inspirational example from territorial impact assessment, and then we go to the next 3 questions, much more putting it into practice, who should be involved, how this process should be organized, and how to deal with data limitations. We'll give, in each breakout, there will be examples that will help you also put your head around these quite complicated topics. And then we will close with the keynote listener, and who was actually Jane Atherton, who was was also the key author of the ENRD work on rural proofing previously, and a stakeholder panel in closing remarks.